Hello, everyone. So I'm still working out some of the technical glitches. Sorry about the start and miss on the start, but it is what it is. We're not talking about planning and prep first. We're just going to talk for a little bit. So, welcome to Behind the Screen. I am your host and dungeon master, Cranio Dad. So, what I like to do is I like to give an autopsy about how the last game went. Talk about it from my side of the screen to let you know, as a DM, things that I noticed, things that I thought the players did really well, things that I thought that the players could have done better, and ways that their decisions have changed the campaign. And just my perspective as a DM. Also, like to spend a little bit of time and talk about the things that I'm planning for this week. That could be things from the giveaways that we're doing. That could be things from things that I need to consider with what the players now know and how things may have changed. This is just a really good chance for me to get out into the ether, the things that it's what a DM has to go through, because I know that I've met a lot of people in my time who play D&D, but I haven't met a lot of people who DM. And one of the things that I know would have helped me is if I would have had more about what does it take to be a DM, what it goes through a DM's mind, and how would I have reacted to things if I were in that situation. So this autopsy is a chance for me to do just that. It's a chance for me to give you that information, to share with you my thoughts, to maybe give those of you out there who are players that are thinking about being DMs some stuff to think about. Better way to think of things for how to handle situations at the table on both sides of the screen. Because I have learned that in order to be a DM, one of the best things you can do is to just go for it. But that's a long story, and if questions come up about that, I'll gladly answer. So, without much further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the autopsy from last week. Last week, or this past weekend, we had our session one. We had session zero, which is the chance for the players to get to know themselves, know their party, and figure some things out the week prior. And I was really already a little excited to play and to DM these people. However, for session one, it kind of sealed the deal for me. Now, I'm a big fan of narrative over rules as written. I'm a big fan of story driving the players, not the players driving the story or the players being driven by the story. It's one of those things where everything evolves and comes into play, and I think this is like the first big point that I could possibly have for any potential people out there that are thinking about getting into being a DM or about getting into Dungeons and Dragons. Because I've seen, now this is not a popular opinion, but I've seen that everybody wants to take this book right here and make it everything. This is the only thing that can happen. And from my experience, not just as a DM, but also as a player, that's a horrible position to find yourself in. If you are not willing to take risk and to alter things, then it makes it to where you are constrained by the novel itself, by the books, by the bindings. And you need to be able to flex your creative muscles. So right out of the gate, I altered some things just a little to kind of make it make sense for the players. So if you've been following along, the players, they knew each other on another island, and they answered the call for adventurers to come to the town of Saltmarsh. And they brokered a deal using a messenger, using the message spell. That took a few days, but the deal was brokered and passage was paid for, and return passage guaranteed if work not found stable within the first 10 days. Room and board was part of the deal, so they knew where they were going, who they were meeting, where they were going to stay, and where they'd be able to get their food. They didn't know what they were doing, but they knew that they wanted an adventure, so they got one. They had a little stop off that kind of added a day to the trip, but that really didn't penalize anything. And the way that I changed things is that there's a lot of background that's really good in this book. If you want to take Ghosts of Saltmarsh and run it and build new characters and have them be people who lived in the area. I didn't want that, though. I wanted something different. I wanted to bring some different flavor to the table. So what I did was I pulled one of my characters from a campaign that's currently on hiatus, and that is the Wednesday night Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign that I usually play on Gidgewish's channel. And I love that character a lot. It's actually one of the first times I've been able to play more than a one shot. So I'm really invested in this character. I really enjoy him as a person. I think there's a lot of layers of complexity that have yet to come out in that campaign that will probably show themselves here on Saturday evenings. So I took Varus Nightbreeze, who is my Eladrin elf fighter, who has a pretty interesting history. And I haven't quite figured out the timeline yet because I'm the DM. I get to figure things out when I need to. And a lot of it will be situationally based. But I stated, well, let me back up a little bit. So the players arrive in Saltmarsh. We figure out that for the first time in a really long time, we have a map where north is not at the top of the page. And that threw me off in the description that I sent to the players. That threw off some of the narrative that I had. But we made it work. That's part of the game, folks, is just realizing that there's been a punch and you need to learn how to take that punch and roll with it a little bit. In fact, the map of Saltmarsh, if you are not paying attention, north is to the left. And that is a huge departure from every single other book that I have behind this area here, where north is always up. It's a bit of a mind bend because you have to rethink a lot of things. But anyway, they found their way to the Seabreeze Tavern, which is not canon. And you know what? I don't care. It's canon in my line. It's canon in my story. That's how I wanted it. There's a Seabreeze Tavern, and there's a proprietor by the name of Varus Nightbreeze. Again, my Eladrin elf fighter. Now, the story that he has told them is that he spent some time with the Silent Rain as a mercenary. He found his way to Waterdeep, became a founding member of the Trollskull Syndicate, and once things were pretty much settled in Waterdeep after some time, he and some of his family, which we have not talked about, relocated to Saltmarsh, where he started to run a bar. There's a lot of other things that are going on that don't really tie to the book. They're more narrative. They're more spice that I want to bring to the table than anything else. But there's stuff going on that I've kind of already decided are the things that if I were Nightbreeze, and essentially I am, that I would want this to happen. And this is how I see things to happen. We may or may not discuss family. We may or may not discuss what that family is made up of. We may or may not discuss if this is his family or an extended family. There's a lot of other things that are going on. There's a lot of other things that he may be doing besides just running a bar. He has mentioned that he is part of the guidance council for the town council. But anyway, I did all this, which is nothing to do with what is in the book at all, because I wanted to give my players something. I wanted them to have a point person in Saltmarsh. None of them are from this area. None of them have ever been through Saltmarsh. None of them had probably even heard of Saltmarsh. But they are going on blind faith and a deal for an adventure. And I wanted to give them the opportunity to have some anchor point in Saltmarsh, because I know what Saltmarsh is going to be like, and I want there to be some kind of normalcy, albeit a little bit chaotic, that they can find in the turbulent seas that are going to exist once they start going through this book. I also gave me a chance to do something that most DMs struggle. I gave my players, without struggle, a place for food, a place for rest, a place for conversation, a place for guidance, and a place for protection. Normally, it's we met in a tavern. You have to go to the tavern. You have to broker a deal. You have to have enough gold to make sure that you can get food. You can get booze. You can, if you need to go carousing, you can go carousing. Oh, and by the way, lodging is, 5 silver a night or 20 silver a night or 1 gold a night per person. And we might have enough rooms. You might need a bunk in your own rooms or a bunk all in one room. I didn't want to deal with any of that because I wanted the focus to be on the players having a place to go to where they can then venture out from relative safety and go forward. I also wanted to give them somebody who is going to be a higher level than they are, obviously, that may be able to be called upon when some of this stuff gets to be pretty fierce. I'm not one to pull punches. I think that Ghosts of Saltmarsh is really even-handedly written, but I like to turn things up a little bit because I have 5 players. And most of the time they plan for 4, so I've got to dial it up just a small amount. And sometimes I dial it up too much, and sometimes that's not a good thing. So I need to give the players the opportunity for there to be an out if they so need it. They probably, if they watch this on video on demand, because I don't think any of them are watching right now, but if they watch this on video on demand, they might pick up on that. Their players may pick up on that as well, and that's fine. He's not going to be able to go on some of these low-level quests for them. That's why he's hired them. But there will be some things that they may run into later on that he might be able to lend assistance or find somebody who can go with them. It also gives me an anti-trope. So there's the trope of we've met in a bar. There's the trope of, you find these people who want to work with you to solve a problem. Instead, what I've been able to do is create the anti-trope of saying, hey, I've been able to hire some people on my behalf to work alongside you. After you're done, they're free to go. I've already paid them. You don't need to worry about that. But anyway, so I created this entire thing as a way to give them an anchor within Saltmarsh. So they handled that extremely well, better than I thought. There's a lot of really funny moments. There's a lot of really funny conversation. I absolutely positively fucking love this group. By far and large, I know we're only 2 sessions in. Some of the best players that I've ever had the privilege of interacting with. I have the privilege of being their DM for this campaign. I will gush about these players for the coming months as we work through this book because I think they are absolutely fantastic. I have seen them play elsewhere, and I am blown away that they are willing to come to me to have me run them through this story. But anyway, so the players dealt with it really well. They were given enough information to get started on where to go, and they headed out. They headed out to the jail. I really love the entirety of how they handled the situation at the jail. I think that there was some of the most interesting acting that I've seen from a person playing a character playing a character. If you go back and watch the video on demand, pay attention to not just the interrogation of the poacher, but also pay attention to the very moment that the interrogation is over, because it was really hard for me not to die laughing. It was also, my wife later told me from right upstairs that she was rolling because of how hilarious it was. But it was great. It was exactly perfect. Is how it should have been in a story. They pressed really hard, and I had to scramble a little bit because the book doesn't name the poacher. And I'm one of those people that when the players press me enough for something like a name, this is the bane of DMs, and there's lots of resources out there for lists and stuff like that. However, I'm Scotch, Irish, American Indian, and German. So I go to alcohol for names. So sorry. But I wound up having to come up with a name and then naming kids, and then developing this character on the fly. I was writing notes on the side. That's kind of a habit as a DM, is that when you realize that you're having to make something up that is probably going to come back to bite you in the ass, you need to write it down so that way you can refer to it. So, there's Jameson and his kids, and he's a poacher, and what happened was pretty much from the book. They were able to roll high enough to get as much information as the book had given me, plus a little bit more that I wanted to throw in, because I really appreciate the way that the players were playing their characters. I really appreciated the way that they were dealing with this scenario, and the way they were rolling with it. It was fantastic. So they were given enough information to kind of drive them to going to the house, which is the first part of Chapter 2. Chapter 1's all about the background of Saltmarsh, what's going on, the politics, the area, the people. It's definitely worth the read, and definitely a mandatory read. If you're a DM, I would read it 3 or 4 times. There is some confusing crap in there. I actually had to go and make some cliff notes and do some bubble charts to figure some things out, just to make some of the connections a little bit more clear. Not that it was poorly written. I think this is some fantastic writing. But I think just one of those things that I'm a DM that I pick up the book, I read it, and then I run it. I don't spend a lot of time trying to learn a lot of the background and lore because, in my opinion, every instance of this game that I will ever run will always be 100% different. It's a different branch in some timeline. One of the things I like to think about is my usual Friday night group that's also on hiatus is running through Horde of the Dragon Queen, and then we'll eventually run through Tyranny of Dragons. That's if we don't change, which we may. But they have an effect on the entire second half of the book, and so there's a lot of things that are left wide open, or the entire second book. And if I were sticking by the campaign, and if I had to deal with the lore and the history and the entire environment, then I would drive myself crazy because my players may accidentally kill somebody that is needed for the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. And I think that it's cool to have crossovers like what we try to do with the Wednesday and Friday group and what I'm doing with Nightbreeze. That crossover blend is very awesome because what it does is it ties the groups together by some really, thin gossamer-like thread. But the important thing to understand is that thread can be broken, and it's okay. If something were to happen and these players wind up killing Nightbreeze, that's not going to change anything. Nightbreeze might pop up again later when we do Descent to Avernus. I don't know. But anyway, so they made their way to the house. I absolutely loved this entire episode. I can't, as a DM, it was probably the best episode that I've ever ran. I made the comment, and it's very serious, and it's a little bit surreal. So if you're a DM and you're watching this on video on demand, or if I say this again later on, DMs really think about this. Players just sit back and smile. I have the privilege of running a party that some of them have already had their misfortunes told by a member of the party who is a misfortune teller and are 100% okay with dying 2 or 3 times. What? Like, are you kidding me? Do you know what that means? That means I have players that aren't afraid to take a risk. I have players that are not afraid of running in to the spooky house because if they die, hey, checkbox, that's one of them. Great. Let's move on because I'm going to make it through this. They hope. And I'm loving the way that they're doing this. So they dealt with some giant rats, which according to chat became the ROUSs. I don't know why it kept trying to show up as a link. It was not a link. So it's a setting I probably need to change because I am the moderator, so I rely on computers to do my moderating for me. But then they get to the side of the house, and we had some technical issues that I needed to work through. And that's just prep. That's on me. I'm using Roll20. We're also using D&D Beyond. Love both of those programs. I think they're essential programs for any DM right now. So I had to, what I normally do is when I build a map on Roll20, I log in as one of my alternate accounts that I make as a player, and I review it to make sure that everything that I want to be seen is seen and everything looks the way that it should. I didn't do that, and that was completely my fault. So because of that, we had to do a small little short break. Severely lacking Gnome Commodum. You could say that, but I think that they're going to make up for it in spades. I really do. I've had a lot of conversations with the players, and it's going to be fun. I think they're going to keep it real and real interesting, and I'm not going to have to pull my hair out. I'll be too busy laughing. But they deal with the ROUSs. They get around to the side. They of course want to look in the well because that's a plot point. And there's 2 giant poisonous snakes. They fight the poisonous snakes. I tried to be as descriptive as possible about the length of time it took the body of one of the snakes to fall down the well. Maybe they missed it. Maybe they didn't, and they just don't care because one of the players dives into the well and falls to her death. The well is actually supposed to be 30 feet. I made it 20 because I knew that if I did 30, I would run the risk of doing an instant death. So that's DMs being flexible, right? Again, if you're sticking to canon, if you're sticking to what's in the book, and if you're not paying attention to your players, you could unintentionally wipe out a character completely. Low-level characters are some of the most dangerous times. And so I think that it is much more on the DM to let the players kind of vet how they want their characters to be, and to provide them a small safety net. Now, I'm not saying that they're always going to live. I'm not saying that if I roll a crit, that I'm not going to say, hey, I rolled a crit. I don't believe in fudging dice rolls, but what I do believe in is scaling. So when I see something as hilarious as a player wanting to go get the snakeskin and diving into the bottom of the well without checking, and I glance over and the well is 30 to 35 feet, and I do some simple math, I'm like, okay, cool, she has 14 hit points. Holy crap, if I roll bad on their behalf, I could kill her. Like, not come back from life, kill her. So I nerfed it a little because I really wanted to see what came of it. And what came of it was some amazing, amazing plays by the players. Based on time, and I think this is mostly because of the technical issue, as well as the fact that we were doing 7 giveaways for the 60 and 80 followers, that we had to stop a little bit early because as they were opening the door of the house, it was a quarter to 11. I've always promised to stop by 11, just because it's one of those things that, and that's driving me nuts. There we go. That we all, have lives outside of D&D. I stream Monday through Friday. One of my players is in the game 7 days a week. So, there's a lot of just time respectfulness, and I would always rather end slightly early on a good cliffhang point versus pushing a game too late to have them still be partway through. I know that once they open the door, the momentum is going to change a little bit, and I wanted to keep that in mind. So with that, I think last week went extremely well. We all had a blast. I know chat was having fun. We had a lot of follows. I had a follow goal out there. We'll talk about that in planning. Before I go on to planning and prep, let me talk about what I'm doing this weekend. So if you look at my follower count, which I believe you can see on my Twitch right around here somewhere, I have over 100. So I have to do the 100 giveaway follow. Now, I set a personal goal for myself that by the end of May, I would have more than 100 followers. And you guys, those who are watching this, those who are watching on video demand, those who are here now, you guys made that happen. And so in order to make sure that I poured myself into this in every way possible, I was able to work with some people who were able to donate some things to me. I got really lucky on a couple things. And I purchased a few things on my own just because I wanted to be able to give back to the community, because I really felt like there was going to be a lot going on. And so far, I've been proven 100% right. So on Saturday, I'll be giving away another D&D starter set. I'll be giving away another set of Blood and Steel limited edition set dice from Ogopogo. I will be giving away another dice bag, which I have here. This. I'll be giving away another copy of Art and Arcana. Now, I'm not shipping Art and Arcana. Amazon is doing that for me. So I have that. And then the big prize at the end is the one that I've been looking forward to giving away, because I want it out of my house because I can't have it. And my wife only let me buy one copy of this. So this is for you guys, is the special series for the Player's Handbook, Monster's Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, and DM Screen. This has got like the really cool foil, the really cool colors. It's fantastic. That's gonna be the grand prize. Now the thing is I'm going to release this information more publicly throughout the week. That last prize, now my players can't win it, I can't win it, my wife can't win it. Also, you have to be a follower in order to win that one. So I'm going to announce that periodically throughout the week, especially on Twitter, as well as when I'm streaming Sea of Thieves. But that prize is definitely one that is a little pricey. And I want to make sure that it's going to those who have been here for the long haul. Now, if somebody follows the beginning of the night, that's going to be the last thing we give out. I think the time limit I'm setting is at least 30 minutes. So I'm going to make announcements throughout the night that if you haven't followed and you want a chance to win this, you have to be a follower to enter this giveaway. And I've already kind of dealt with that mentally. I didn't want to do that at first, but it's one of those things that I want to ensure that the people who are helping me grow this channel are the ones that have the chance to win it. Now, I also let out a couple of teasers. It didn't happen last week. And I've got, so let me explain. So I got Ghosts of Saltmarsh on release day from Amazon because they're awesome. But what I wasn't expecting is that when I opened the box, there was 2 copies in there. I paid for one. I contacted Amazon. their customer service. They were fantastic about it. They said, it's yours. We screwed up. Keep it. I don't need 2 copies of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and that's the campaign that I'm currently running, and I really like giving back to the community. So last week, or on Saturday, I set a goal of 10 followers. I wanted to see if we can gain 10 followers during the session, and we came up just a little short. We came up at 8. My promise was that if we hit 10 followers during the session, that I would give away Ghosts of Saltmarsh. I believe, now this may change between now and Saturday, that I'm going to do something different. I'm always going to do something different, but I think this time it's going to be a little bit different. I believe that what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a really low bet goal for the session, and I'll restart my session before my stream goes live. And then what is going to happen is the stream boss counter will actually be up somewhere on the screen, and the deal will be that whoever is the stream boss at the end of the night will win a copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Seems pretty easy. May delay people from doing some stuff. Doesn't mean that I won't give something away halfway through either, just to entice people to try to get their names out there early. So I'm thinking about doing that one. I'm not sure yet. I might just do another follow goal. But that's the one that I'm kind of leaning towards, just because I think it's interesting. I want to see what happens. And I've got, nothing but a book to give away. So anyway, that's it for the giveaway stuff. I'm super stoked to do that. I'm almost positive that the big prize is going to be followers only. So those of you that are watching this probably already are followers. And you will be able to qualify by following before the break on Saturday, because I'm going to announce it, like I said, on Twitter. I'm going to announce it while I'm streaming Sea of Thieves. I'm going to announce it at the beginning of the game and throughout the game. And I'm going to remind people when we go on break that by the end of break, if you haven't followed, then you will not be able to enter in the last prize. Again, it's just my way of making sure that those who have helped me build are the ones who are winning or have a chance at winning. Now let's talk about planning and prep. So the introduction of Varus Nightbreeze doesn't really change too much. Again, it gives my players an anchor in Saltmarsh. It gives them a familiar face. It gives them a place of safety, solitude, and collection. It gives them meals, 3 meals plus a night. That gives them drinks. It gives them a secure meeting place. I think they're going to realize that. But it gives them a place to meet, a place to plan, a cool and level head to discuss things with. It's just an opportunity for them to have that squared away. Now, I have looked down through the campaign, and there's some things I've got to be a little bit careful of. Nothing that warrants me discussing it now, because it happens much later in the book, like chapter 6, I think, 6 and 7, that I just need to be careful about how I roll some things out. Because if I don't, and if I do the bad thing that I keep talking about not doing, which is if I pay too much attention to the book, I might wind up killing Varus. But I believe that this is going to be the easiest week of planning that I've ever had, because I already planned for them to make it at least through the house last week. Now, because of narrative, we didn't, and that's a good thing. I always rather it be because of narrative versus indecision. The players played supremely well, and we had a blast, and I felt like we moved at a really good pace. But I had built to where they would move through, if not the entirety of the house. I had about 90% of the house completely done with notes, with little reminders for myself, and having read through it. So prep-wise, there's not a lot that I really need to do. I will go over the chapter a few more times. I'm probably going to prep the first half of the last half of chapter 2. I'll let that roll around for a second. Okay, I think you guys got it. But yeah, I might prep a little bit of that. It doesn't really require much because Roll20 is awesome. I just need to actually do the right thing and log in as my guest account, because I have found that a weird thing, and this is not a ding on Roll20, but when you log back, if you were the DM and you set up a map and you log back in as a player, it doesn't necessarily show you what the players see. It's free and easy to create a second account. Create the second account, add that person, add that account as a player, log out and log back in as that player, and see what the players really see. It allows you to do a little bit more tooling. So I might do that. I don't have to see Gears, which that's the cool thing. Roll20 already did all that for me. I've read the book. I've read it a few times. I just need to read the chapters that they are going through to make sure that I have the plot points right. I was able to read the book within 3.5 hours of me being able to sit down and open it without my kids. I read at an incredibly fast rate with a fairly high retention. So I've read the book from cover to cover at least twice, 100%. And yeah, I have tried D&D Beyond's new encounter builder. I kind of like it. It reminds me of what was that one that everybody used for a really long time that I think might still be up. They also did character sheets, but that character sheets were taken down. You know what I'm talking about. You know, I know you know. You're thinking about it. You want to type. You're looking through your history. You're shaking your head. You're saying, no, I can't think of it. Anyway, somebody else had one as well. Yeah, Kobold Fight Club. That's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, they do. Theirs is still up. I like Kobold Fight Clubs a little bit more. I think it allows. I think it adds. I think it has some things that D&D Beyond's, but I haven't truly messed with it enough. I've just played with it a little bit, and the benefit of between D&D Beyond and Roll20 is the fact that I don't need to build encounters. Because I have the book on D&D Beyond, I can literally click over, not even click, I can hover over the creature's name that they are fighting, and their stats pop up. I don't need to open the window. Because I have purchased it on Roll20, all the maps are built. All I need to do is make sure that the player tokens are on the map and that I have the visibility set the way that I want. That's what I screwed up, was I had turned on Fog of War, and I didn't think about the implications of turning on Fog of War with the tokens that I had in play for the players. Hey, I'm going to mess up your name, Bobicious. So I don't have to do a lot of like game site prep. I just need to continue to read, make sure my plot points are squared away. Maybe write down a couple notes about how I might want to change a couple of the encounters. Because again, I think this is pretty well geared for 4 players, and I have 5. So I got to turn the dial up. No second eye. Sorry about that. I got to turn the dial up a little bit. So if an encounter has like, for example, the ROUS encounter or ROUS's encounter that they had, I think the book had them fighting 4. I turned it into 6 because it just, the math works. So, and they dealt with it extremely easy. So I think that's the only real prep I have to do, is just continue to read over it a couple more times, make sure that I've got the plot and through points taken care of. I know how what they are dealing with ties into the next part of chapter 1. I also know how what they are dealing with now ties into the rest of the story. So being mindful of alteration and things like that, which there's very little threat of that with what they are going to run up against. I really don't foresee there being a lot of issues, be it prep. I will do my best to make sure there's no technical issues. As mentioned on my Sea of Thieves stream yesterday, I completely rearranged my entire office. And one of the downsides to being a tech person is that when you rearrange everything, something always doesn't work the way that it did before. So I'm running into that problem. That's why my lighting is weird. I've got some stuff that I've got to just kind of figure out. I'm going to be spending this week trying to do that. I'm still a little low tech. I usually have all the actors listed in a text file. So so to prep, I copy them there and roll initiative for all the NPCs. Sometimes roll HP. So that's all set ahead of time. Yeah, and I mean that's the advantage to running more. I think more high tech is the fact that I'm using the baseline HP. You know, whatever. If it's a kobold, it's going to tell me they have 11 hit points for this particular one. If it's a kobold, if it's a standard kobold, it's maybe 9. These kobolds, maybe they're up armored and their AC is actually 15 instead of 13 or 11. You know, so I don't necessarily have to rely heavily on technology. You've been to my house, you know, Gizwich, that I have. I've got the cards, I've got the encounter trackers, I've got all the books that I could possibly need. I've got a lot of it. What if we rolled HP for the players? What do you mean by that? Oh, you mean if the DM were to roll the player's HP? Is that what you mean? If, like, as a DM, we were to roll the HP for the players and not tell them what the number was to kind of keep like that veil of secrecy? I think it would be an interesting concept. I actually, if it wasn't for the fact that they had already built their characters, I had planned. Um, oh yeah, that's cool. I found, and I may run this eventually for a one shot just for fun. I found a campaign on Dungeon Masters Guild that is all about having the players figure out the characters that they are, and it kind of asks you to do that. It kind of asks you to roll up the characters, and then they go through this discovery process by following context clues and dealing with encounters and finding things out about themselves, and they wind up assigning themselves these different characters. um, like for example, like say you set up the classic, you have a fighter, a barbarian, a cleric, and a paladin, right? Like say you have those ones, or you have a ranger, whatever. You set up those four, and you don't know who's going to be what, so you leave it genderless, nameless, and all that fun stuff. But you pick you do the rest of it. You build a baseline character, you build a scrub sheet, and then they will find out which one of these characters they are based on how they are reacting to the things. It's a really interesting idea, and I really fell in love with it. And then I realized that I wanted them to build their own characters. Um, I did not. I heard they had a lot of tech issues though, like power outages. I may run that one as a one shot at some point down the line, or I may actually have one of the players run that as a one shot because I'm going to have a session break for a little while because I've got some personal stuff going on in about 6 weeks. And that's the other thing about being tech is that you think you have more time to play, but we really don't. I know for a fact that we have some sessions that we're not going to play, and we may just do a round table conversation, stealing your idea, Gizwish, because I liked it. I thought it was brilliant. I wish we would have been able to do it. Um, oh, that's awesome. That is fantastic. Um, that that is amazing. But with that, unless you guys have any other questions, I like to keep these short. Like to keep them less than 45 minutes. I've got 4 sleeping children upstairs while my wife is out of the house at band practice. So I do look forward to the game on Saturday. Again, I think I have an idea for how I'm going to tee up giving away a free copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And I'm fairly certain that to win the limited edition box set for the core books, I'm fairly certain I'm going to turn on follower only for that giveaway. But all the rest of them are open to everyone else. So we are doing the 100 follower giveaway. So tell your friends, come by, visit, stop by, say hi. And I may also give away a copy of Ghost of Saltmarsh. I might hold off for a week to do that one, just because I want to focus on more of the story and getting these items out the door. But with that being said, I do again appreciate you guys stopping by. I have been your host and your Dungeon Master, Cranio Dad. I look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we begin Session 2 of Ghost of Saltmarsh. Have a great night, and I'm going to look for somebody to raid, so hang tight.